We will begin the meeting of the North Bennington Village Board of Trustees for Tuesday, April 8, 2014. First item on the agenda is a review and approval of the minutes of the March 11 meeting.
They look good to me. I move we approve them.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The warrant.
I did have one thing on the warrant, and I've spoken to Lori. We're going to just take the $100 fee, Kelly Fuel. It's about halfway down that first page.
Yeah. Subtract
that from the total. I had meant to email Lori to take it out. It's that budget pay that we do for the water department shed that we've already kind of maxed out what we typically pay.
Right.
So I'm going to get those figures, and I think Lori's going to try to find what we paid last year in amount of gallons, and we'll just match that. And anything over that we've paid, we'll just, I've already spoken to Steve Goodrich. He'll just reimburse us through the water department for anything.
So that's going to be deleted from the warrant?
Yes, so, yeah, the new total without that is $25,085.20.
And then we're going to add something to the warrant.
Oh, boy.
So this is not going to be that easy, Mark. And I just had it in front of me. It's a no payoff for $382,000. Here it is. $362,279.64.
For
Say that again.
Yeah.
That's the payoff of the tax anticipation note.
It's $362,279.64. And it's a tax anticipation.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, we're flush for a short minute.
So what was
Oh, now.
I didn't get it.
I'm working on it.
I didn't get it all.
I didn't get it all either.
Could you repeat that?
Sure, it's 362. Copy.
279.
64.
64 cents.
Okay. So that's 84.
I got 387,364.64.
16.
That's a scary number.
We've been seeing a lot of those lately, haven't we?
387, 364, 84.
Yep,
Yep.
Okay.
I messed up.
She wants that back.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions about the warrant?
Oh, that was tax anticipation, right?
Okay, I move we accept the warrant as presented at 387, 364, 84.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next item is, well, there's the different warrant, right? The payroll warrant.
Payroll warrant.
Lori, you wouldn't have a pen, would you?
I would.
I thought maybe,
you would.
you would. The one you gave me several months ago has run out. I need it.
Well, here's two just in case, but I need to go back.
We can't afford that, you know. Payroll?
I'll move we pay the payroll warrant.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we have a Wycott.
We got a white.
Hmm?
We got a white.
White
Oh, the
Cotton.
White Cotton Foundation, Windcoat.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, Winco.
Yep.
I'm looking at it upside down.
I do, and we'll sign those.
I'll entertain a motion on that.
Anybody got any questions on it? I move that we accept the Winco warrant for $6,015.59.
Second?
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, let's see here. Citizen comments.
Excuse me,
What?
could you please just approve?
Oh, just acknowledge this and approve it, yeah.
Yes.
There were some refunds that were, I think this is standard fare, after people pay their taxes or mortgage companies pay their taxes, there's sometimes some adjustments that are made in very small dollar amounts. And we need to approve that, as Gail wanted to make sure that was approved. And that is a total warrant refund out of $699.87.
I move we accept this statement as presented.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we need to sign this for?
Might as well.
Yes, please.
Well, what do we got? You guys want to talk stairs, I'll bet. Dan?
Wyatt asked Dan.
For the development, for the planning
ordinance.
commission?
Ordinance.
Oh, for the ordinance. And, I'm sorry, your name?
Chris,
Yeah.
Chris.
here to talk about ordinance as well.
Right, so I thought, Chris had called me
Oh, okay.
about coming, and then it sounded like it'd be helpful to have Dan here.
Okay, so how do you
As
want to
part of
format that? Do you want to present
Well,
something? or-
maybe, Chris, you could share what your thoughts are, and,
Well, basically, what I want to do is not let the ordinance issue die, so to speak. So I want to keep it evergreen and keep up to date on what's going on and what's being done. I know that at the March 11th meeting, you talked about a couple steps you'd taken, some initiatives you'd undertaken, and we're going to move forward with. One of the things that I wanted to say is that when I was here in the fall, you had mentioned that there was a lot of conversation and you didn't really realize or feel that much was gotten out of those conversations. I don't know if you remember saying that, but you kind of implied that, well, okay, we had these conversations, but I don't know if the board was really helpful. I just wanted to assure you that it was very helpful.
Oh, great.
To get your feedback, to be able to sit here and discuss things with you and get some direction. So I didn't want to
I think we all appreciate that. Thank
let
you.
you think that you did all this for nothing and we
We're
walked
not
away
done
and
yet.
saying, hey, that wasn't very helpful at all. I think it was very helpful.
Okay.
I do appreciate your time and that you have taken to do that. At the last meeting that you had on the 11th, you mentioned that you were going to take a look at all the Bennington ordinances and especially 8.8 and maybe get with the police chief and see what was enforceable and what was not enforceable and so forth. So I just want to find out where that stands and what work's being done on it and if there's any input that I could give as a citizen or you know, how that's been going.
You can speak to that, can you not?
yes, I can. And Chris, I thought you also mentioned when we spoke that one of the questions was who enforces which ordinances?
Well, exactly. I think some of the issues I've had is when we'll back up a second here. I'm originally from Vermont and grew up and was raised in Bennington. I went away and had a great experience in Maine working on the Regional Planning Commission and the planning boards and ordinances and so forth. And I think what I was used to is that if somebody called and said, hey, I have an issue, the code enforcement officer would say, okay, let me hear what you're describing. Maybe go out and take a look at the scenario and then say, well, that falls here, it falls there, and that's how you should pursue it. I haven't had quite that easy a time in discerning. Do you follow your land use ordinances, or are you going to follow town ordinances, or do you have somebody that says, well, if that's the scenario and I've seen what you're talking about, then you should be looking at land use ordinances. Or no, that really falls under the town ordinances that we've adopted from Bennington, who are going to enforce them.
Or our own village ordinances that we might have that are different than those.
Right, so as a citizen, and you have an issue or a question or a concern, it should be very specific and very easy to say, okay, I need to talk to this person or that committee, and the problem is looked at and resolved. I really don't think I've had that quite, that easy. But the other thing I wanted to mention is that the light situation up where I live has been improved. I don't really know how that happened. I was never told how to submit a complaint and how that got resolved, that the light went away. I do appreciate that. Whatever Jeannie did that, I appreciate it. So that situation has been rectified. But those kinds of situations, I feel that when that's brought up, you should be able to say, well, this is what you do. Not say, well, we have 5 sets of ordinances, or we don't really know where we stand, or we have to look at it and get back to you, and that may or may not happen. It was a little more clear-cut where I've been in the past, and I kind of expected that here, and hadn't really seen it.
What community did you live in Maine?
Thomaston. It's about 3,000 people, about the same size. We did have a code enforcement officer.
It was about twice as big.
And he was very directly tied to the planning board. So that when issues came up, when somebody came in with a planning issue and wanted to have a subdevelopment or whatever, we would address that based on the ordinances. And when we didn't have somebody coming before the planning board, we reviewed the ordinances and presented at a town meeting that we wanted to add, change, or delete. So we were always keeping that evergreen and keep working with it. I'm not sure how that happens here. It was part of our comprehensive plan.
It's been a mystery to me since I started on this board, because really it's, and there have been different zoning administrators, but I would think, and Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, but generally, any of these concerns or complaints would go to you first.
And in practice, they do. If people have an issue, there's no the local person to complain to, but it's not necessarily something that I have any power to deal with.
Right.
Usually, if it's a burning issue, I'll refer people to the fire department, or where I have a problem are when people call about things like dogs or discharging guns or things that would normally be a village ordinance, but I've never been able to
Figure out.
what, we don't have a central place where they're collected, or no one seems to know what our current ordinances are, and that would be the most helpful thing, would be to have, to have that information, and if it's not readily available, then maybe start from scratch. And
I think that we've spent many years, sorry to interrupt, but we've spent a number of years assuming that we could rely on the actions that we took, that were to pass ordinances, submit a copy of them to the town of Bennington, and that would be enough. It never has been. So that
we have a binder that has our current town ordinances.
We do, but as it turns out, there are multiple versions that came from so we've got all sorts of electronic copies. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. Every time we think we've got one, we say, oh, we need to pass this to make sure that we really are, and that has to do particularly with, well, we've dealt with noise, I know, in the past. We dealt with dogs. And then it disappears into the vapor, and the police departments say, we don't know what we're supposed to enforce, even though we submitted it, what we thought was the appropriate procedure. This is part of the problem, is that you're dealing with the town-village differentiation. So if you lived in Bennington, it would be, you'd have a much more pleasant experience probably with.
But you do have a set of land and use ordinances. And when you read those and it says verbatim, and you try to have it enforced, it's like, well, it's either it's in effect or it's not. And I think the way we did it in Maine, you'd send a letter to the landowner. If they didn't comply, then you'd send it to the town. Just escalate that way. But there doesn't seem to be any set pattern of, you go to A, you go to B, you go to C, you go to D. It's a set of steps you go through. So you make sure
I sense that that's been the culture of this village for a very long time. I'm not making excuses for it. I think that's the way it's been. It's not a good idea.
And things are changing radically, for the good. I mean, when Matthew and I first joined the board, I mean, the ruling was the Bennington police would not come to North Bennington, period. Didn't matter what the situation was. I mean, and now, that's, in fact, we went so far as to hire the sheriff ourselves and have some kind of protection in our village. I mean, that's all changed now. The police are very cooperative, and so now we're trying to get all this put together to get the ordinance set that this is something the Bennington police have agreed to that they will take care of. We got the ordinance put together. It was kind of wishy-washy because as it changed, we didn't know where we were either. Some things they'd take care of, some things they wouldn't. But I think now it's coming to a head where
and I think that's
very clear.
Why I'm here. I just want to keep it moving.
I appreciate that. And
Yeah.
Janice has taken it on herself to find all the ordinances, get a comprehensive copy of the Bennington ordinances, and we are now all reviewing sections of it.
But we do have a complete copy of the land use ordinances. I have it with zoning.
Yeah.
It's only bylaws, whatever you want to call them. I mean, it's just.
Right, and the procedure is you would contact me, and I would, if it's a code violation, I would either, normally what we try to do is work it out with the landowner, rather than, because the process of violating someone and bringing them to court tends to drag on. And in most cases, conversation is all that's necessary to work out the violation. There are a few landowners in the village where that's not the case. The problem is with them, there's really little you can do other than to sue them in court, which can.
And Chris, you need to understand that we've been involved with a number of those rather expensive procedures in the last.
We should have a procedure for coming into this, because we need to get approval from the trustees, I assume, to spend the money that's entails in that.
I think that's when we become part of it, I mean, you're paid by your time to pursue those complaints, concerns, questions, whatever. Should there be an impasse with that, I think that's when we come in, and then it really comes down to how many tens of thousands of dollars you want to spend to deal with.
Well, I'm not
number of
talking
issues.
about the specific issue. I'm talking about the drop-down procedure.
I get that. I get that.
It just doesn't seem to be clearly defined. Like, I had the issue with the light. I voiced it and came out and looked at it, and I never heard another thing about it. Is there a form I fill out that says, I think this is an issue? Is there a finding of fact that's presented back to me? I mean, what is
Yeah, at what point do you end up in front of the DRB on something like this?
So that's all I'm looking for, is to get something down to the citizen that comes in and
I would issue a violation, give the property owner a certain amount of time to comply. If they don't want to comply, then normally the procedure is they would appeal to the development review board, and then it would come before the development review board for review, and then they would either comply with the rule of the development review board, or then we'd have to take the step to bring them to court. So in the situation of the light, I think that sort of resolved itself shortly after I came out to look at it. I think, Janice, for you, I remember this is another way to try to deal with things informally. I think you were talking to the property owner. There were various conversations that took place, and then it seemed that the issue was resolved. Normally, if you weren't happy with what happened, or we wanted to pursue it further, we would issue a violation notice.
Do most of the complaints that come to you just come through your phone, so it's a verbal
Right.
complaint? Do we have a form
We don't.
that he's looking for? So possibly a way to kind of start the process to maybe come up with a form, if you are calling Dan on a complaint, maybe we can put something on the village site that says refer them to, and maybe you wouldn't have to act on it until you got actually written.
I mean, we could pass
And
a
then from there, that
bylaw
would-
amendment that would institute a formal procedure, which would entail filling out a form and giving the applicant great to have, have it resolved in a certain amount of time.
Sure.
Like a formal written response.
Sounds like a good idea to me.
Yeah.
But what it sounds like needs to happen is really from the bottom up, is that we need to review. I think Chris is probably volunteering to be a major part of that process.
Well, I'd like to be involved in it. I have a 12-and-a-half-hour workday. So
I understand.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
I have an interest, and I'd be willing to do it.
we need interested people to get involved with that. And it's not that we're not interested, it's that we too have,
Yeah, this whole thing needs to be moved from you.
pretty much.
Grassroots.
Whether it's an ad hoc committee that puts it together, reviews it, redoes it, there's probably funds available, I would think, through the, planning grants, through the BCRC.
Now, I'm sorry, did you say you had experience with this in your previous? So is there a way you could
Is there a more formal procedure?
get what their procedure, like, can you still access their procedure and as a guideline that we could use? I mean, that would be a helpful start if that was something you found kind of an easy to follow, easy, resident use, then we could kind of just use that as a guideline to get
We
started.
have a full-time code enforcement officer who's in the town office. So when people came in and wanted to build a subdevelopment of a house or whatever, they interfaced with him immediately.
And that's my point about this being a very different community than that.
But it's about the same size.
It's we're half the size and we have no paid people other than just his by the hour of time. that he
And
uses.
in 99.9% of the situations, everything goes smoothly with applicants for a permit of some kind to do some sort of work, or building work. The only time it becomes an issue is exactly the one that you found yourself in, where you're dealing with an individual who's not willing to, who just wants to be different.
Right, that's where the documentation is.
Right, and that, yeah.
That's right.
So
I agree with
it would be good to
that.
have that, even if it's only rarely, but I think it would be a good idea to have some sort of formal system
Yeah.
for watching a complaint and documenting everything for our own benefit. It's good to have.
I was gonna say it'd probably actually benefit you some, because then you could have, you would have a clear cut, where if you did run into a kind of a wall where you couldn't get any further, you would know where to go to next, and it would just be kind of a.
I mean, I think your point is good, Dan, that, speaking to Chris, that in the 10-year here, there's probably been 3 instances in the community that have been like, even to the level that you dealt with. And the other 2 ended up in court. So it's not like this is happening all the time. And I'm sorry that it happened to you.
And that's kind of the side too, but you've got to have a workable system.
That's right.
We have to submit our plans to the state. We have to prove that we have a workable system. So we're constantly trying to poke holes in it in our meetings and in our thoughts and our processes. And, the planning board would hear for a plan and it would be perfect and great, and then the officer would say, well, what would happen if you wanted to go this way? How would we deal with that? Is it in the ordinance? How would we do it? How would we? So when you're submitting your comprehensive plan, the state has to know that you have these things in place and they work. I don't know how you submit a comprehensive plan and not have a full set of guidelines and ordinances.
We don't.
Required to do that.
You're not required to do that.
What Vermont focuses on is the town plan, which is a 5-year renewal process involving kind of, and maybe the ordinance are
That sounds like the same thing.
appendixed into that, but it's not an important part of it. This is more of a plan of how do we want to see the community as a broader overview.
Right, that's the same.
And it doesn't tend to get into the nitty gritty of, whether someone can sleep in your park or, although that may well be an
No,
appendix
that
to
rolls
the.
back to your land use ordinances or your town ordinances, whatever way.
Bylaws,
that would
yeah.
be.
Or,
Bylaws, right. I don't want, I know you guys have a lot.
Okay.
I just wanted to.
go ahead, Janice, if you've got.
Well, I would say, Chris, if you can get some materials from what you were doing in Maine, but I'd like to have a conversation too around the enforcement part, or what systems would be helpful to have in place. because I think that would complement what we're doing in terms of looking at which ordinances are important for us to have. I mean, in what form, which is
And
what
you may
we're
never
doing now.
get beyond where you are now, but at least the average Joe should be able to come in and know what to
Right.
do, and not have to go through.
Well, and that's part of the problem, knowing what to do. It starts with, well, call the police, because they are serving our, you know, for some certain things, and
But
then-
certain ordinances aren't enforced by the police.
That's
I
right.
think having that information on our website would be really helpful to have.
Because it's pointless to have an ordinance without figuring out how you're gonna enforce it.
Right.
You might so not
That's
have
right.
it.
and the book is full of those types of ordinances, where nobody knows.
So,
Because they've just been added on and kind of piecemealed for the last 80 years.
Right.
So it needs a huge review.
And there was a time when a lot of those ordinances, when they were written, we had our own police department. Which, you know, so it's,
And then, right, up until the late 60s, early 70s, there was, you know, our own police enforcement. There was always somebody to actually act out and do those things. I think that the first step, really, well, it can happen concurrently. I think this idea of kind of using some of what you know from your previous experiences, we might be able to incorporate. I think this comprehensive review of the entire ordinance package of Bennington, such that we can come together with recreating almost from the ground up our own new set of ordinances is going to help everybody understand what they are. There won't be these questions about, well, what version of that was passed in, you know, 86 is, because
it looks,
it's a nightmare, I will admit. So what next, aside from us?
Certain civil ordinance that would entail a civil violation versus a criminal one. We could talk about including them in the zoning bylaws. They fall under my jurisdiction. In which case, we already have a procedure for finding people and bringing people into the legal system. Rather than
So stripping out of the ordinances, the civil,
I guess you'd have to have a discussion about whether it falls under a sort of land use sort of idea which would be appropriate.
it could be appropriate for zoning.
So like, for example, burning, there's nothing in our bylaw regarding burning, but it always happens on people's property.
Yep.
And it might be appropriate to put a provision in bylaw that forbids,
Yeah, that's a land use issue.
you know,
Yeah.
burning without a permit from the police department, in which case I would have jurisdiction over it.
Right, okay.
Or dogs. You know.
Parked cars, or, you know, on junk cars or whatever.
Which we
You already have,
which is
yeah.
something that we do have is what, garbage and junk cars and, you know, taking fill out of your backyard. Those
Right.
are two or three things that have currently covered in zoning code.
Could you see things like a dog, noise ordinance, a barking
And the
ordinance?
problem with that is if you want someone to come do something about a barking dog, then you need the police or, you know.
Which is kind of the process we're in right now.
Or,
right, and I think as we review the ordinances, there should be some questions we might want to ask. I was trying to identify areas that I thought we might bump up against some issues, but one is, how is this ordinance enforced? Because the ordinances really are pretty detailed and up to date. I mean, it looks like Bennington has revised most of them.
But you do have some conflicts in there. I mean, you've got land use ordinances, you cannot burn materials on site that aren't originated on the site. And then you got Mr. Lund from the state saying, well, it's okay to do open burning. Then you got 8.8 that says you will not do open burning. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, your head's spinning, which one of these do I follow?
And
so
that
you
goes
gotta
far beyond
start-
our village lines, because it goes to the state, and
You gotta
it,
start sorting all that out and decide. And that's where my interest is, to be able to kind of edit this and say, put some real life test to it. Is this going to work? Is it going to cause more of an issue? So,
And I assume any proposed ordinance that we would enact, we'd have to run it by an attorney.
oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And you'd be able to identify what.
And I imagine hearings and everything else, right, to get to pass them. So I think what we want to do is exactly what Janice has started, And we all need to take that responsibility, go through it. Some of the parts of that are gonna be not very important, and there's gonna be sections of that that are,
Well, there may be some we don't
and
want
many that
as
we
an
don't
ordinance,
want,
yeah.
and,
I mean,
or don't even
and I
apply.
think we're okay with that.
Yeah.
But if we do want it, we need to have it enforceable.
Right.
That's,
So again, what's next? Do we commission an ad hoc committee to look into this at the more, or after we're done maybe with what we do? Maybe ask Chris and if there's hopefully some other people in the community that share his concerns and get Dan involved, because he's got a real life sense of what he feels like he can and he can't do.
I could, on my own initiative, decide to create a form that whenever I get a call regarding a complaint about land use,
Direct them to the Fund for North Bennington site and say, print the
Right.
form and mail it. And then
or they might not know what ordinance is being violated, they just know there's something going on they don't like, so I could work with them and create the form myself and identify what provision in the bylaws being violated. And then that would put the onus on me then to follow up with either talking, trying to resolve it informally with the landowner or submitting a notice of violation to the landowner and starting the legal process.
I think that would be helpful. Then there's the, well, I left a message, well, I didn't get it, or whatever. It's, no, there's this form. They submitted it, so the individual has got a copy of their whatever, and then it would be your job next to field that or to delegate it or do whatever.
I'd like to know, well, okay, it's fine that the correction happened, but what happened behind the scenes? Well, it's
Right.
so, but anything that, I can do to assist, I'd be happy to do it.
I'd like to call upon you, Chris, and it won't be immediately, but within the next several weeks.
Good. Thank you.
Just
for
didn't
coming.
want you to take your efforts, right?
Yeah.
We don't hear it enough, and I do appreciate that.
I'll get out of here, see you guys. But, yeah, give me a call or let me know what to do.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening.
Thanks, James.
And thanks.
Thanks, Dan.
Let's talk fire department.
Did we sign a window? Lori didn't get that.
Got a wind coat,
Oh,
We started.
did we?
where would it be? You knew it, didn't you? What? She followed it. I knew it was there.
Since you're here, we're gonna act on this tonight.
By the way,
Set it out on people's emails.
I'll just, are any of you all planning on going to the
So,
fireman's
yeah.
thing this Saturday? And I will apologize, you handed me all of those forms, and they were all notified of the existence of this event, but they never got a form to send back from me. I don't know if that is a deal killer, or can.
I'll still come.
Okay. I'm gonna try to make it, for sure.
She's welcome to come too. So.
It's this Saturday?
Saturday at
5 to 6.
5.
Starts at 5.
5.
You know what, excuse me, this is our new treasurer, Mary Rogers. Mary, this is Ed Myers, chief of the fire department. And Mary was
I need to
lieutenant.
ask something too, so.
Well, I
And this
RSVP'd,
is Norm.
You what?
I RSVP'd to someone,
Oh, you did?
to you, I think.
Okay, good. And I just want to make sure they know that,
Yeah.
even though they didn't get a form. I think you'll see a good, I'm hoping my wife and I and
I can make it. I
Mark
just-
and
I'll
maybe
be by
not.
myself, but my wife's out of town. Presents for everyone.
Another one.
Okay.
That's all I've got.
Ed,
Yes, so I handed out when we're talking about the stairs back to the firehouse. Tim Smith Associates drew us up some plans, I showed you. Basically, this is just to change the stairs. We had to dig in the bottom, new footings, put some steel beams up to support the decking and the stairs that's there now. Basically, that's it. A couple cold things. I got about 6 inches on the rails. A couple other things, but that's to replace the stairs that are out back. Just walk through.
Yeah. And I kept talking to you about this, and finally I understand what you were saying, because I just actually met with Tim Smith minutes ago, and we discussed some of those issues with Spalding and the cement. And I always had envisioned that that walkway was just open steel. And in fact, it's part of the slab that comes out.
That's actually the whole.
It's the whole upstairs floor that extends 6 feet out, and he can't for the life of him understand how that is still there. Because there's no cracks at the interface between the, it's weird, but, go ahead.
The only thing I just wanted to let you know, I was gonna go from point A to point B to point C, so this is point A that we did. Got an architect to draw up the plans. What it's gonna take to do these stairs. I know we talked about the elevator and all that, but this is just the stairs.
Yep.
Because that's top priority, is stairs. Period. Pretty much I left it in his hands. He gave me that letter that I gave you. I'm not sure exactly, should be pretty close to that, but I'm not sure until we move ahead and talk some more. But I want to do that without the permission to do that.
How much money is in the fire budget, building budget?
I have
There's an annual report.
report right here.
44,000,
Mark just pulled
45,000.
away.
Conveniently about what?
How we need to fix it. It's 45,000.
Actually, with the conversations with Tim just now, he said that some of the things he had to do with this were probably kind of shots in the dark because certain people were out of town. And I'm not going to hold him to this, but he said that, there might be 20% savings from this number.
All I tried to do now was just to get us in the point A position.
I got
so
it.
we can move forward.
That's exactly what, I appreciate that. My point is, this is something we can't ignore anymore.
Right.
And we've had this, well, let's get a grant to do
I got it.
My feeling is, that's not gonna happen, and if it did, it's not gonna be before the stairs fall off the side of the building. And I think we have to do it. I just want to do it to the degree that meets code, makes it safe, and no other bells and whistles that are, and you're not asking for that. And again, the point is that we can't remove that catwalk. To do so would cost more because it's so integrated into the structure. My only other thought was, well, what could you restrict access to it because of its being unsafe? And Tim's point was actually the components of this job aren't the expensive part. Going in and repairing the re-rod and stuff and patching and the railing. I mean, the railing is something that you could get rid of if you didn't have people on it, but that's stupid.
The only thing he did put on there that restricts it now to, I think it's 5 people.
That's right, I said
Yeah.
that.
That's what it says in
Yeah.
the letter.
Which would be a problem.
Well, so what is point B?
Point B is to move forward, and I can't do that without your permission, or even a
Oh,
board.
okay, so if point B was our approval, point C would be what?
I was gonna go back and talk to Tim Smith.
Okay.
That's, when I told him I wouldn't do anything until I talked to you.
And then get maybe some more real numbers from the contractors themselves who would be doing the job. Please, what's the board want to do?
Well, the Firehouse Reserve Fund has $42,277 in it. I assume that's the funding source we're talking about. This, and I think, well, we didn't appropriate anything
We
this
didn't
time.
appropriate.
So, okay.
Having been burnt by our recent events regarding cost overruns and stuff, that's just my great concern. And I guess that I'm throwing this out there, that one of the possible, and maybe this isn't even possible based on the designation for that money, but should this put us in a situation that exceeds the amount of money that's available, would Wincoat be able to cover any of that?
I think, my thing is, I just want to move forward to see what
Okay.
bottom dollar figure we're
Okay.
talking. is what I'm looking for.
Let's do that, particularly if there's no commitment.
My only problem with this is, it's a shame that, because it'd be an ideal time to tie in some kind of lift or something to make that second floor handicapped accessible, so now you can use it for a lot more purposes. We could get money to pay for some of this, but the timing is the...
Right. We've talked before with other people in the village too, and the thing is, even if you were to do an elevator downstairs, the last thing you want to do is an elevator outside. You can do it inside, or whatever it may be, but even if you did an elevator, you still gotta have stairs.
Oh, yeah, no, you gotta have the stairs.
And my thing is, if we did this 5 years ago, we wouldn't be looking at 45.
And Tim made that point, as well, is that if it had, now the building was built in what, 66, 67?
64.
64. And, maintenance on that portion, this exposed outdoor portion, has probably been next to none for those many, many, many years. And had there been some maintenance that he doesn't think we'd be where we are now, the stairs might still be rusted through. We did some work on them, I don't know how many years ago, to kind of,
About 5.
just to,
No, it wasn't 5.
well, you were here.
It was the first thing you did.
First thing you did when you were here. It's 5 years. But that was just add some steel, whatever. You can't weld rust to rust, and, And the difference in now, we have to make that ADA compliant. Meaning that the stairs have to be no more than 7 inches high, they have to be 11 inches wide, they have to be closed risers so your foot can't slip through. All the things that this.
And the railings can't have to
And the railings have to be a certain number they have to curve around at the bottom and extend beyond so just repairing that, even, might have been possible 15 years ago, but really, it needs to just be redone. We've been talking about a grant to do an elevator for probably about 5 years. Probably about the same time we thought, well, let's just patch this up here and then we'll, and I think it's unrealistic. And I actually like your point is correct. It might cost more, but an internal elevator rather than a lift.
Oh, yeah, that would be great.
Makes more sense, and maybe that's where you seek out the grant for a community building to have such an access. You can't do it here. We've looked into it everywhere from sideways. So maybe that's a building that we want to be able to access.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be an elaborate elevator.
No.
It can be a lift, but if it's inside, it's a hell of a lot
You're not
simpler.
gonna be dealing with the weather, it'll be a lot cheaper.
Right.
I'm looking for us to move forward on
Yeah,
this.
that seems like a no-brainer, we're not even committing to spending any money, just moving forward, so.
So your next step would be
I'm sorry,
to firm this up with Tim to get some more
Accurate figures.
accurate figures.
And I
Well,
would,
but that's really not your next step, believe it or not. Your next step is just to firm it up with Tim to give contractors the figures. To give contractors a billable set of plans, and they'll give you the figures. And I've looked all over these, and there's one thing, they got painted railings, and I think we should throw that away, and they should be powder coated like our bridge. Because we'll get into just what you just said, is that maintenance issue. You know what, you powder coat them, it's baked down, it's galvanized, it's done. Look at our bridge, it's 3 years, 4 years old now, it looks like the day it was put in. So there's just a couple other things, but.
Well, that's added expense for sure, I would imagine.
It is, but it's not crazy.
That's for the contractors to tell us anyway.
That's right,
throw numbers
that's
out.
right. And, with Eddie, and we sat down, and we had a long discussion over this, and there is a few things that we can do to help to lessen some costs. Not a great deal, but a few things, and so that's really your next thing. And I will help you if you want write that bid spec, because it needs to be. There's a few things for legality reasons, and the biggest thing in our situation right now is the last sentence. The village secures the right to refuse any and all bids.
Correct.
So we can just walk away from the whole project if it ends up coming in at hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now,
There's already 4,500 in there for painting and special coatings, specialty coatings, so, again, Yes.
That's all.
Right?
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
so move forward with the idea of coming up with a bit, something you
That's
can use
actually
to
a buildable
request
set
bid.
of plans right there. you
Yeah,
know?
we're done. I mean,
So what Ed needs to do, and I can help him with that because I do that a lot more than he does. And, you know, if you want me to, I'm not gonna step on your toe. But then we advertise it in the paper, the Village of North Bennington, and seek bids. We write out a bid sheet, which I have for blacktopping and like this roof and everything else that we do. We just change a few things. And then we set a date where we have a meeting that people can walk, you know, all meet and they can walk through the project. And then we set a bid opening, which would be at a meeting like this, or we can do it any other date, you know, as long as it's a public bid opening. And then you open them, and then typically, if we open the bids on Wednesday, we would award it by Friday. So that gives you a couple days to digest what you want.
Right.
Most of the time, we award it that night and have a nice day. You know, but that's where you're at.
You willing to work with
I don't have
him?
a problem working with Norm at all. I
Great.
just want to get the okay to move forward.
Go.
Yeah, go for it.
Run, baby. Go.
I don't need these right now.
No, we're good.
We know what it looks like.
So we're just looking, the next time we're involved is basically when the bids come in and
Yes.
Yeah, so,
You guys are.
yeah, so I think just so that Tim knows that this is a bid
Well,
process.
unless there's,
He estimated
Unless
the
there's
cost
questions
based
on
on
what-
No,
some
he knows
reality.
that, I
Yeah,
think.
okay.
He was just trying to be helpful with,
Yeah, give some guidance on it, whether it's
and
feasible.
like you said, it may
Yeah.
come in less.
that's right, yeah, the money piece though is kind of.
Ed, excuse me, Ed.
Yes.
Norm, we're ready for you.
Well, winter's hopefully over. Everybody's wearing short sleeve shirts. The college kids are walking around. We're starting to see them, and you know, that's a good thing. We've started sweeping. We've swept all our sidewalks at least once. Most of them, just about the whole village twice. Again, we had to buy brooms because the school decided that they're going to hire it out this year instead of using our tractor. So, you know, there was $400 we didn't have. But it is what it is. So, we've spent quite a bit of time with our street sweeper today, the other day. So, you know, probably tomorrow we're going to actually go up and we're going to be in Shasberry helping them out. And then we'll give it back for a little while, and then the next rainy day we'll get it back. There's a tremendous amount of sand on the roads, you know, because we use a lot of sand. I mean, our salt budget is no surprise. There's actually another bill coming for another load of salt, but thank goodness as soon as Lori gets it, I can pass that off to somebody else. So, you know, we're going to get reimbursed for that because of the potential storm that actually never came. We used more sand this year than I've used the whole time I've worked here. You know, so it's horrible. Frost is mostly out of the ground. I mean, the frost heaves and the potholes and everything. I got my highway mileage certificate, and we have now been awarded Depot Street since 1973. We've lost out on about $14,000 that we should have claimed through the years. You know, it's only 1/10 of a mile, so it's small mileage, but you know, we got it now. So all the streets that we maintain, we're being paid to maintain them. So that's a victory. David and myself met with the state just the other day and filled out our funding report, which he's got right there. I know he's looking for it. So I wanted to make sure I said that because you guys got to sign it. And then we actually applied for a paving grant on Bank Street. So that piece of concrete, whether we decide to go forward with that, but we got to get the request in now for the grant. And it's
This is for 68 going out past the tracks.
yeah, actually it'll actually start on the store side of the tracks, probably right by that Y where the little cut through is, because we had it start right where
The state
it
ended.
stopped last year. Now, if we get the grant and we try to cut a cost or two, we can maybe move to one side and just do it. But it's actually, for widening that road, just a couple feet, but actually making that into a legal width lane. And the town of Bennington is redoing the sewer right in the side, so the upper end of Bank Street and Hawks Avenue is going to be quite a mess this summer. So, you know, if you're driving through there, make sure that you, you know, plan accordingly, because that's going to be like a bomb went off for a while.
So Bennington's involved because of the sewer underneath?
Yeah, well, that's their own standalone project.
Yeah.
And Shasbury is doing the other end.
Right, but they've asked through MS Engineering, MSK, I think, but Domich,
Yeah.
and they've got to close the road to do a lot of that sewer work because they're in every lane and it's so narrow. So we authorize that. I mean, it's for the common good of everybody. So it would only be a great time to capitalize on that with the road closed and somebody else is putting up all the signage and the litter on the stick and everything, and to work with it. Now, the Shasbury actually has a grant to do the rest of that road out at least a couple miles. So it's kind of crazy for the state to pave just before that 2 years ago, leave a crappy section and then pave. So I think we're going to get that grant.
Okay.
Yeah, dollar-wise, just so because, you know, we don't have a lot of money to throw around. Anyways.
Or any, perhaps.
It's, the numbers we came up with, and this more than is going to cover it. I mean, we're very generous in the things we allowed. 47,682, and this grant would be an 80% grant. So that'd be like $9,500 that we'd have to pay, but we talked to them and they're going to allow us one way or the other to have Norm do in-kind labor to cover a large share of that. Now, they said nobody's ever asked this before, so Norm's kind of breaking ground here, but they said it'd be silly not to. And they realized that, and they even agreed that if the state does not allow it.
I thought they didn't. I thought we'd been through this before.
Well, but
that was a federal. That's a little different.
This is state, not federal. But what they would allow us to do is to have Norm do the work and have the contractor pay him.
Exactly.
I mean, which is kind of under the table, but they said they would not object to that. We'd rather do it up front and just put the bill in, but, so anyways, I think for me, going there and talking, the timing is ideal. It'd be silly not to do it now when the whole area is going to be torn up anyways. And we're only talking of like 900 feet, not 1,000?
Yeah, it's not a lot.
But it's going to look stupid not to do it.
Well, a lot of the expense is probably $4,000 is to widening it. And that's something that we can work on and we can save some money. And then traffic control is something that we can do. You know, we can't mill, we can't pave, we can haul, we can put our truck in the loop and we can haul and you know, so that there's just a few things. But we could come up with we could take at least probably half our match and eat that conservatively, and I think we can do a little bit better.
Does the fact, go ahead.
No, I just saying, do you want to have this copy, the original copy, to give to them, or you want me to mail it to them?
Well, I can bring it. I mean, I got to go to Montpelier tomorrow to talk to the Senate. So, but Thursday, that's what I was talking
about.
Okay,
why don't you? Because they know.
Do we need to sign it?
No, you don't. That one doesn't need a signature.
That one you don't. But the other paper that needs to go with it.
Right. The paper that needs to go with it is this thing that I sent you all email copies of the highway, town highway and bridge standards, whatever it is. Anyways, we need to sign that.
Okay. Norm, this citizen that you've spoken with on Bank Street extension there,
okay,
about drainage and widening of the road and stuff.
Yep.
Will that all be taken into account? Even, I mean, like with the sewer and the, you know what I'm talking about? Maybe you should read the letter. This individual had a discussion with you about a plan in the works, widen the road.
Yeah, and was in favor of it.
Yep.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah, we need that for that grant letter, if that indeed is what it says.
oh, okay, you want to submit it with the grant?
Yes.
If the concerns I expressed are met, the expansion would be 2 feet, proper drainage considerations, so the front yard wouldn't flood when it rains. Care is taken for my sidewalk and for my individual dog fence.
Right, well, you talked about the dog fence and the sidewalk.
Oh, invisible dog.
The yard flooding, I mean, there's no real drainage on that street, you know, so.
But just contouring and things like that can probably help as you finish it up.
Well, we can't contour back to the railroad track, I mean,
No.
there's some, you know, there's some things that are.
Where's the sewer going, where's that line run, underneath the road?
I don't.
Is there any chance that cement's gonna go away?
Too many
No.
days.
No.
No.
Are you gonna add?
Yes, there is. There could be, but we just went through that and we found out how much that costs, so.
I see.
You know, no, that cement's gonna stay.
So by widening, are you gonna add cement?
No, we're just gonna dig and eventually you'll have that little crater where it'll sink and, you know, we'll deal with that a couple different times through the course of 10, 20 years.
But you'll dig down properly, put in the lifts?
Yeah, and I mean, if we would do that ourselves, we'd do it the same to bid specs, you know, because you can't have Peckham Road.
No, no.
You know, it's gotta be done correctly, but, you know, a couple feet
Yeah.
and widen it out, you know, dig 3, pave 2, a
Yeah.
little shoulder there. You know, and there it goes.
Okay.
You know, we spoke to Dr. Flood last year. You know, he was all in favor of it, go ahead. You know, I haven't seen him at his house, I think he's,
It's a copy for
living
Lois.
somewhere else right now, probably just, you know, because of the winter, or maybe just because he's
Actually,
old.
lives in the area, but not that home.
It looks great. I was driving by the other day, just the sidewalk and stuff looks great there, and had the opportunity to sit there for a very long time with the train, which was blocking both accesses across town again. Gave me time to look around. Okay, right here.
Okay, what this is the standards, they're fairly simple, I was surprised, but we have to have signed that to get a 10% discount on this grant. If you don't sign it, we'd have to get.
It actually is a hinge on a lot of, almost every state grant that Vermont has. And what they do is, you can still get a grant, but you're gonna only get a 70% match.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and some actually eats up 20%, you know, things that they deem are more important.
Arm twisted, yeah.
Okay, the other thing is this annual report that we have to make to the District 1 Transportation Division. It's kind of a nothing thing.
It's the length of the roads one?
Well, it just tells us what we're gonna get for what
Class
we
1,
got.
Class 2,
what we
Class
got
3.
for, and then they'll tell us, fill this out, what we're gonna get this year. And the only reason this is used, what they're telling me, if there is a disaster that's limited to your area, it can't be called a state disaster, you can qualify for money based on this report, and it has to be over, it's over 10% of your general maintenance costs.
Right, with winter being removed.
So the only number they ever use is this number here, and if your costs are 10% more than that, you can get state aid.
I see. All
And they
right.
don't even, then they said, nobody's ever looked at these, but you
No.
have to do it every year.
With ours, it would be like
We
say,
need to borrow that.
just downhill from Vermont Hangar and like from Ron Pembroke's where that box culvert is that goes across Water Street. I mean, if for some reason they moved the logs and
Yeah,
blew out,
okay.
That's how
you know,
important it is.
with our budget, it's so small, a couple potholes have qualified us for that.
Yeah.
One more signature. Mark doesn't need to sign that one.
I'm not, okay.
Okay.
We all set there?
I think we're set with all the highway paperwork.
You got other paperwork?
Oh, yes.
you have anything else?
Well, there's an executive session thing.
Okay. Yeah, let's go a few of those. No word on the trackless?
No, I almost made that phone call today. I just did.
You know, it might be that he'll get to it with the weather changing and stuff, unless he, I mean, I don't know what his, whatever. What else you got?
This is new business, we do that?
Yeah, we can do new business.
Okay, I got, I don't know why this came to me, it's addressed to you, but it always, they put it in my, if it's the village, they put it in my post office box now for some reason.
Great.
Anyway,
It's worked.
This is from Shaftesbury Veterans Committee. This is about the Memorial Day Parade this year is going to be in Shaftesbury. And they invite...
It's because I never respond to it.
They invite the trustees to march in the parade if they so choose. And it's... Memorial Day, I guess, is May 26th. The parade starts at 9 o'clock. It'll be the same route as it's been other years. And refreshments at the firehouse after. So you want to tell them thank you, Laurie, or...
Well, again, that's a day I will never, as long as I'm employed, be able to do such a thing, given my line of work, but
I think that's kind of a busy day for you.
if anybody else wants to attend that, that'd be great. You're there?
No, I'm always we have
You
a
have a-
soccer
oh,
tournament that
soccer,
we're
right.
at every year, but if we're not there, then I can't. Is it still Jim Meskin, right?
Yeah.
Jim always makes sure I know about it.
Okay. Take that.
Okay, the other thing, I got a notice from Liberty Mutual Surety. This is to sign off the bond that Del Signori had for the intersection. They had to have a bond, and so we have to sign off that they completed their work and they're not liable for anything.
But they haven't quite yet, is that right?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. Do we want
There's
to?
still some warranty work.
Some warranty work. I'm wondering if we can't just deep six that till that's done.
Yeah, what I was going to do, I'm just going to say no, that there's warranty work to be done. And
I would call Jim first on that before you pull that trigger, just to, because I'm almost positive Del Signor has to pay to have that bond out. And the warranty work that has to be done, in all fairness to them, probably like 10 grand. You know, that bond's probably for $1 million.
yeah.
You know, so I don't know, and I would just talk to Jim about that first, and then.
Jim Sullivan?
Yes, before you set that back, and then get his opinion.
Okay, I got to talk to Jim anyway, so I'll
mean,
just
it's not-
ask him. It's not a big deal one way or the other.
Okay.
for
I mean, in
us.
all fairness, Del Signor's already been out here
They've looked at
a
it.
week ago, you know what I mean, so I think we got a good feeling they're not gonna leave us.
Well, I know, and actually, what we're talking is a very small amount. This bond is for $360,000.
Okay,
So, I mean, it's not like,
yeah.
What kind of
We have-
signature does it need, David? Just one?
a signature.
Okay. Why don't we authorize you, if Jim feels comfortable, with signing it and mailing it?
Okay.
If he suggests that we hold it for,
He would know more about that.
right, that's what I mean.
Okay, the other thing, this is the meeting where we have to reappoint the people on the planning commission whose terms are up, and the DRB board. There's only two. Rachel's term is up with the planning commission, and she wants to step down as chair, but she still wants to stay on the commission, so if, I mean,
They can decide
she's
who the
willing to
chair
do
is.
that, so we have to elect her to that, unless we have somebody else that we'd like to put in there.
So, a motion,
Make a motion that Rachel Schumacher
stay on the board.
stay on the board of the planning commission.
Also move?
Second?
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And on the DRB board, Jim Sullivan's term is up, and he also has agreed that he would serve again if we appointed him.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. One last thing. Finally, Lori knows about this. This is the grant that we had to come up with a CCR name, which I don't even know what that means.
We have one now, though.
We have one now. It took us 2 months,
Awesome.
took us 2 months to find
Oh,
it.
we've written it down everywhere, haven't we?
Is it
David?
tattooed?
Yeah, David tattooed
Yes.
it.
Anyways, what it was, so we finally got that. I have signed the papers, we've gotten the copy. This is the other one, new one. And for those who want to know, our CCR name is North Bennington Village of, and nothing else works. You don't put a "the" anyplace, and then you don't capitalize the wrong thing.
North Bennington Village of.
And we had been registered twice, but unless you had the right email address, which I think Gail must have done it, because it didn't, none of our addresses worked. And what's so maddening about this, every time you go into it, the second time you try, if you're wrong,
It locks you out.
it not only locks you up, it jams your computer and you have to reboot your whole computer.
And then it said, please put in your address, so we would put in Depot Street, and then it wouldn't take, and then it said, no P.O. boxes. So then we called. and
Right,
said,
yeah, but then,
"Oh,
yeah,
well, you need
if-
to put P.O. Box 427 in.
Well, no, it was, what it was,
And then it
yeah.
said, oh my God.
Because they had changed the system where they allowed a P.O. box. Now they don't allow it, so when you try, but what's in the file is the P.O. box, even though
On the
it
way
won't
back.
let you put it in. Anyways,
It was awesome.
we finally got it, we got it back, and what I need is a motion to appoint Jim Sullivan as the local project manager, unless one of you guys want to do it.
No.
No,
So
Jim's-
moved.
Jim's the logical guy.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so I've got a copy of this that I think Laurie should have.
This
A lot
should go to
of-
Lori.
A lot
David,
of
what's the,
boilerplate.
What's the name of the grant? What's the name of it?
This is the one for the sidewalks on Main Street. That'll take care of the sidewalk in front of Cage's property and go from here up
To the end.
to the line, and then go on the other side from David Aldrich's up to the line. And this is a good one, because this is one of the few that the match is only 10%. And we don't have a lot of money, but, so I'm gonna tell Jim not to rush through this any faster than he has to.
Right. That's right. How long do we have to make to?
5 years.
Exactly. Well, yeah,
But there's few of those grants that come along.
Thanks so
that are-
much for-
That are only 10%.
right. On the other hand, you don't want to wait and lose it for whatever reason
Right,
either. Or, I mean, have it,
Pieces of sidewalk that got us that grant, we really need to fix this summer,
yeah.
because it's just dangerous, you know, so.
And I just got in the mail that Lori handed me, I got to sign it, go through the same rigmarole. This is the grant to fix the roof here. But that did come through, so.
You're a miracle worker.
Well, you know what's funny? I've developed this system where I make it very, very easy for the people reading the grants. Makes all the difference in the world. Timmy Corkin says, it's so great, I know your cover, the covers all look the same, that's North Bennington, it's approved.
Great. Keep it
Well,
up.
because he said, so you don't realize how difficult they go through all this wordage and they don't answer the questions that they're supposed to answer, or they.
Most of the people writing these grants have no skill in grant writing, I'm sure.
Well, I know, but it's not difficult.
Well, I know, well, believe me, for some people, I mean, it's
Well,
a
I know.
craft and you have it, so it's
Well,
good.
what people do also, they'll ask them a question and they try and impress the reader by making up all sorts of stuff. And what all that does is make everything else that you say questionable.
And everybody, their eyes glaze over. And just, yeah.
Anyways,
Thanks so
we've been very
much.
lucky because we've gotten all of them.
We've gotten a lot of money.
Well, I'm through.
Okay. I think we're moving next probably to the review, update, and discussion of the emergency management plan.
I sent out copies of this, and I bought just a few. So basically what I've done is referred back to our previous plan, and much of that remains the same, but there were a few things that were new that I wanted to talk about, and then I'm hoping people either can help fill that in, or if that information, I'm got a few feelers out to folks, and I'll go over that in just a minute, but that we can just go ahead and sign it. It's due May 1st.
Okay.
So there's one copy here, and does someone have another? I had 3 copies. I gave one to Ed. Okay.
You're right.
And you couldn't open it, is that correct? So I want to make sure you go with one of these goes with you, Norm, when you leave.
Violet.
So maybe I can just go through it briefly and identify those areas if people have any additions, and I'm going to need to borrow one of those pens. Mine died.
It's out of my hands now. I've got no control of that pen.
Okay. So the first page
Bobby, how do we get?
identifies 3 people to be points of contact during for your town during an emergency, and those are you, Matt, Ed Myers, and Norm. And then, but it does identify Ed as the emergency
Yep.
EMD director, emergency
Management
director. Thank you. And then I just want to confirm, is this 2 Depot Street? Is that the address here? 1. Oh, okay. I'll change it electronically.
That's what we use, whether it is or not, that's what we use.
Okay.
It was 2, and then 911 changed it to 1.
Oh. So I'll come back to the 2 items that are in red. One of them would be today's if we adopt this plan, which is the LEOP. And I'll talk about the NIMS in just a minute.
What's that stand for? You say it like it's a familiar
Well,
word.
you know, this was my daughter's favorite video growing up, the NIMS. Like it was something else.
I don't think that's it.
It's a FEMA abbreviation.
Okay.
But, so anyway, this is contains both information that we fill in. It also contains the forms that are used during an emergency. So the second page begins the response and recovery guidelines, and the first, there's some information filled in, but you use that during an emergency, and you fill in whether you've done that and contacted those people. At the bottom, it talks about shelters, bottom of that page, and we have 3. The fire station, and I did contact Tom Martin, who confirmed that the school would remain a shelter. And I talked with Jim Morriston about the middle school, and that's available as well. So I listed those. I didn't know what the capacity of the fire station was. And so I just didn't fill it in. I think we're okay there.
That's fine.
The next page is also all form to fill out during emergencies. So there's nothing that we need to have in there at this point. Page 4 are planning tasks. It lists high-risk populations. I contacted these people too to make sure they were still the same point of contact and I had the correct phone number. So on there, I have the Village School, Southshire School, Head Start, Homestead Muse, Fair Winds Community Care Home, the UCS Group Home, and Bennington School. So I focused on elderly and youth, basically. Planning tasks.
Isn't there a second, I mean, maybe you're referring to it in Homestead Muse, but those are actually there's two separate developments there.
Right, and there's no number, I don't have any telephone number that's anybody's there.
No, there isn't.
So
Yeah.
that's,
What's the other one called?
There's Homestead Green.
Green.
Homestead Green and Homestead Muse. So that's probably, the Homestead probably works for that.
I think I have both
Oh, you do?
registered there,
Yeah,
sort
okay.
of, yeah.
Yep.
So that's a bit of a problem. I think otherwise you just have to go there. Someone would
Yeah.
need to go there and physically contact residents.
They don't have any organization or anything that,
No.
Not that I'm aware of. It's managed out, I mean, it's out of town. And then the next are areas that might be problem areas. Water Street and BCIC are on there because of flooding, potential flooding. Bridges, that we were asked to list bridges, so these are on our previous one. The dam, the Perrin Dam, the water treatment plant, which actually is in Shasbury, of course, and railroad crossings. So I listed those. Stop me if I'm going too fast or you have questions. Planning task 3, pre-designated local emergency operations centers, and I only listed 2 of those. So they have a space for a third one, so if we could think of one. Primary one's the fire station, the second one is the village offices.
So you're gonna wanna change the address on that too?
Yes, I did, thank you. And is there any other place that seems to be
Well,
an obvious one?
I mean, the village, you could do the garage, but, I mean, this is more of a place where people can get information, pre-designated local emergency operations centers.
Or where people could be contacted, you know,
Yeah.
so that if you're contacting resources,
Yeah.
which everyone.
Well, then I think
has
Norm should be the tertiary on that, don't you?
Okay,
It's where you would be someone who can get,
Page 5,
someone can get a hold of if,
right up top.
you know, because you're gonna be working, in the event of some emergency, you're gonna be working with Ed and doing whatever else you can do to help the area, so.
I think the reason there are 3 is if,
First 2 you can.
if the first 2 can't be used, then you have, I mean, or then you'd have someplace else where you could be operating. So like, for instance, in Wilmington, when the town offices were flooded.
Right,
During
okay, so it's
Irene,
more of a
then you had to have
location,
another
it's a
place,
facility,
yeah.
so this
yeah.
is more the location that you're talking about.
Well, I
Right.
think the village garage has to be this, you know,
Yeah.
Okay,
and that's in 3
If that
distinct,
floods, we're in big trouble.
3 distinct locations in the village. I mean, the school could be another one.
wow, I just put
But that's fine.
garage. What's the address there?
56 Mechanic Street.
Okay.
Norm, did that fellow get a hold of you yesterday? Who keeps calling me every month, the testing?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
I think we finally resolved that, but.
Okay,
Oh, I know, but they don't tell me who, yeah.
It's not a great system for us,
No.
for our size. But that's just what they have.
Okay,
okay, the next sections have to do with who would be the point person for various types of emergencies. And I just pulled these off of our previous one. So, let's see, number 4 is agencies responsible for maintaining resource lists. And actually, in the past, resource list was part of this plan, and I was told that at this point, we don't have to include it, but it's something that everyone should have. And so, I haven't had a chance to, but what I'll do is send out the previous resource list and ask people to update it, because there are changes. And then the next section on 5 is who really would coordinate what type of a disaster. And some of them have more than one person identified, or institution or whatever, like infectious disease, both the town health officer, and that's in Bennington, and the Southwestern Vermont Medical Center, both have roles to play in that. And then the next section down, number 6, is more information about the shelters. And I will mention, and I did get an email back from Norm about this too, is Tom Martin had identified that the school doesn't have, it has a small generator, emergency generator, but it doesn't have a large enough one to run the whole building. And I know that we had offered them one.
Yeah, it was.
And they.
I'm not sure that Tom was aware of it, of the declination of the generator, but it was.
I don't think it can run the whole building, but it'll.
No.
Well, it could run more.
Run a lot more than the little generator.
One they have just runs the furnace, I think.
Well, it runs a pump when the basement's flooding, that's about it. No, we went through that. We discussed putting one out in the garage there and getting the wiring and all that to do. And at the time, the gift would have been great, but the cost of hard wiring everything in and making it go was going to be quite a bit of money. So then they decided that this all actually happened. I won't say they, because it was really our school board. Ultimately decided that we didn't have the money at the time to do that. It's kind of what Shasbury ran into, right? I mean, they had this massive. They wanted a generator that SVSU was giving away or taking out of something, and they looked into it, and it was going to cost so much to hook up. So I guess the bottom line there is we would still want to be in search of a solution there that would be affordable. But Norm did make efforts to provide one for them. The fire station has one now.
Okay.
Sits right outside the.
Yeah, okay. And, of course, the middle school is equipped with all that stuff. And then the new thing on page 7 is this.
Well, if that doesn't, then you've got to uncheck that box then. Shelter 2, the village school, because it says it has it checked off as having wiring in place for a generator hookup.
Okay, so it doesn't, yeah, okay. I'll just.
Yeah, that's another way to look, yeah.
Okay. Now, Norm, you may have to help me out with this NIMS list. Apparently, FEMA wants municipalities to maintain a list of equipment that they might have available to share, I believe. Is that correct? So you told me that Paul Doucette called you up about, you spoke with Paul Doucette about this and gave him this information for the Bennington?
Yep, I don't know if that's where this paper got populated from, but.
Right, well, I got this from Angela Lansdale, who's the person at BCRC who handles emergency management. So she already had it. She had it. Yep. However, what the document calls for is the date that the NIMS, our participation in NIMS was adopted. And we didn't actually formally do that. There's a form, I believe, and so I'm going to leave that blank, but I'm going to reference Paul Doucette
Oh,
Since
good.
he, yeah,
Yep.
or put in the Bennington date, I guess, is what I will do on that front page. So we have half a dozen items here that we had said that
We have.
we have. So does that look right to you, Norm?
There's some tweaking, I mean, I can get together with you on Thursday if you want. I mean, like, it's got a grader, and yes, we have a grader. It's a 1945. It's
Oh, I know.
dang it. It worked for our 1 mile of road, but, So, and there's some updating. I can populate most of this with the stuff that Ed has.
Oh, yeah, sure.
It's getting this information back and then actually putting it on another document that's out in the world, correct. I don't know where that falls, but, it's up on the top, it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then other, is that amount? 'Cause,
Oh,
It's type, so it's gotta be like,
let's see, I knew what that was.
But I don't think we should go through this whole.
I think it's the
either.
size of the equipment,
yeah.
actually.
It very well could be. I'm sure there's an easy explanation for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I can get a hold of you either on Thursday or next week and we can do this.
Okay, well, let me see where things stand with Paul Doucette, because he seems to be the collector of this, and we can let him know that we may have some additional items too, and how he'd like us to handle.
Well, that's what I think.
Yeah.
You should probably get the paper corrected first and then go with them with the answer, so you don't have to make it 2 or 3 phone calls.
Wow.
In other words, he doesn't,
Well, however you want to
Okay,
do it.
okay.
you guys can be in touch with that.
You can call me
I could
Thursday.
do, this Thursday?
You
Okay.
can call me Thursday or Monday and we can just pencil it in.
Yeah. Okay, so any additions or corrections or other information that people think should be on here that didn't get covered, or do we have, like, for instance, do we have a fax, they asked? We have a fax? No, we don't, okay.
Who has a fax anymore? What's the point of a fax?
We have a fax.
You do? Does it work? Well, then he has a fax.
What's that number?
Yeah, that,
Garage.
The garage number?
really?
Okay.
Yeah, we just bought one.
Well,
Government surplus,
oh,
$30. That's great.
By the way, this is why he's going up to Montpelier tomorrow to testify at the Senate committee about
Oh, the surplus?
change, they want to change the way
Yeah.
they run that program. And they need people, advocates, people who make a lot of use of that program to speak in defense of it.
Okay.
I think, so can we adopt this with
We
the
need-
changes?
That's what I'm hoping we can do, and I should mention, and as I did in the email, that one of the requirements of the system is that we all, not just
Take
the
the-
board chair, take the introductory courses to emergency management.
Online.
Online, yeah.
I see that Bill's
And-
already,
Bill's,
sounds right up.
yeah. And the first course we'd need to do by the 1st of October of this year, and then the second level course by next year.
What,
Okay.
do you have the,
there was an email that went
I
out yesterday
sent out
from
an-
Bill.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on there.
right, I saw it.
So I'm going to move that we adopt the document then.
Yep.
The second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. With small minor changes that,
Right.
that
Yeah,
that you'll
right,
occur. Yep.
okay, so today's the 8th, I guess. And just, you need to sign it, and I didn't
So there's this
really
FEMA
leave
Okay.
a full space there, Matthew, or they didn't leave it.
Where?
Right
Right there?
there. Well, keep going.
Yeah.
So yeah. I think that's the formatting, not me.
Good work.
Thanks so
Hey,
much.
Oh,
Bill.
and we did have a map, too. You didn't have that. Oh, maybe you did. I made copies, but this is a nice color one here. Thanks to you, I think, David. This is your flood map.
Dennis, thanks so much. That's some of these tedious things that we're required to do that,
I have 2 pieces of new business. Are you still?
where are you at with business? You're done?
I'm done.
I've got something for old business, so we can go back to new business first.
Okay.
We'll go back to new business. Well, first of all, I will say, I will never again sit in Norm's chair. This is a current note, or current expense note request. Gail handed this to me this afternoon. This needs to be completed and sent in, so I've marked a few places where you all have to sign that.
Okay,
And this is a request for $60,000.
okay.
Not using
This is the
any
bar,
of it.
it's a line of
Oh,
credit.
Yes, not using any of it at
Yeah.
the moment.
Okay.
Okay, but just to get prepared for that. So while that's going around, the second piece of accounting business is a request for our village to adopt a capitalization policy. This is something that Gail has found is required now by the state and
Okay.
for audit. Basically, what we will be doing is compiling a list of each and every asset that the town owns, the village owns.
Yep.
Much of which I can work with Norm and Ed, because they'll probably have more assets than anybody else, but let me,
There's 3
sorry, I only made 1 copy of it. Can I start here? Since you're not busy, I'll start with you.
We got a real good start.
And
Couldn't tell that was me.
we will have to go back
I thought we
and
did that.
recalculate what depreciation schedules should have been for any number of prior years. We do list all furnitures, fixtures, equipments, land improvements, vehicles, equipment, buildings, building improvements, roads, sidewalks, etc. So it's definitely not going to be a short-term project, and we will just do the best we can with it. The second page of this, and I can, if I had everybody's emails, I'd be happy to
There's
send
3
it out.
spots there to sign.
Okay. But the second page of that lists what the capitalization thresholds are, and really, unless an item is $5,000 or more, it's probably not going to meet this. Nevertheless, there is a good suggestion in here that we, the town, we may want to list every asset anyway, just to kind of
Right.
keep track of them. Further, an individual item may not meet the $5,000 threshold, but if you have a whole bunch of like items, one example would be folding chairs or something like that. We should do that. So if you want to go ahead and approve this, we will, Gail and I will work on that project.
I will approve that.
Now, this is per state statutes? I mean, the
That,
levels
yes.
that,
Yes, and it is something new. It is not what had
so if
been
we want to go lower than that
Then
for our
you, yeah.
own purposes, we can.
Absolutely, yes. And I think it would be a good idea to
Right.
identify everything the town has.
Janice?
So I'm assuming you have,
So I'll entertain a motion to adopt that capitalization policy
I would think that
We actually.
that we are currently signing.
I'll move that.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Years ago for insurance reasons to list, because a lot of our assets were not listed.
Okay, I've signed that one. I'm,
You signed that
I
one?
did that one, yeah.
Okay. Go that way.
That's all set?
Yep.
Janice had that.
Mary, are we all set then with that? Yep.
Yes, mentions.
I will bring up one other kind of newy business that I just remembered. Yeah.
That needs the date on it, but
What is the date, please? 8?
April.
So, as happens every year, during a thaw and during any wet time is the park, excuse me, the McWaters Park perches some water. It floods a little bit, doesn't drain well. And Avery, Dr. Wood got a hold of me with some pictures, and I went down and took a look as well at where the water is pooling, and they're wanting some suggestions of what we might be able to do with drainage in McWaters Park, because it's going to affect their projects the way it is now. And
Wasn't one of the reasons that, didn't they build a garden? And I know we don't, a lot of the water doesn't come directly through that one culvert that goes under the road we found. We don't get a whole lot of water.
That drains everything from like where Janice lives, that side of the hill, and then there's another one.
Didn't you and I went down there at one point?
no water was
Had a
coming out.
there was hardly anything coming through there. I think that's a lot of just groundwater that comes up.
It's either groundwater or it's just because you have a backward sloping. You've got the river, it comes up and goes down.
Well, it's-
So this is where if you get an inch of rain,
Yeah.
all
I
of
think
it
all goes
drains
into
to
one spot.
one spot.
It's clay. It's a
Yeah.
big clay bank.
Right.
And didn't they build the one, I thought they built that one
We
garden,
had to put
pretty much where
special
that culvert
drainage
comes
around my
out.
mother-in-law's house.
Well, they're
To
wanting
kinda
it to
trap
be a
that
water,
water,
they want
right?
it to be, I think that they want it to be what they call a water garden, but there are places that, we need to think about some drainage is the bottom line.
Right,
And-
well, I mean, Ron Premrick has talked about that with me for years. You know, it's a great idea. You know,
But the problem is,
we gotta decide where we're gonna spend money in.
Exactly.
You know,
But the only
that
way-
park never really hit the high priority.
Exactly.
the one issue we run into there, one, because I don't think it's coming out of that culvert, it's mostly coming from that property
Yes.
itself. The only way to drain it out of the center of the park would be exactly what you mentioned, we probably didn't wanna do, is a big swale right in the middle of the park.
Well, you don't have to do a swale, you can do, you know, just a big ditch, slot trench right to the park, and then fill it full of crushed stone and,
But there's
you know,
also.
lateral and bring it out. They
There
just,
are water lines that run through there though. I don't
Yeah,
know.
but they're deeper. You wouldn't go that deep necessarily. The sewer is down.
you know, but, I mean, they just did it across the street in the other field, to dry out the field. I mean, that's how farmers dry out their fields. So it's, you know, it's not a hard process, but it's, you know, it's not crazy.
I
Yeah,
see
it's
this too.
something we could get Dave Denson
This
to
is
look
what I
at to
was
see
getting at.
if it's something that, obviously he wouldn't get into the actual, he could do a lot of
The work.
groundwork.
If it interests him, it looks like it's
And we
something
were
that the
planning
kids.
on getting him up to look at the new piece we got and kind of give us some ideas
Mm-hmm.
with that on the other side of,
I had said
Fountains
to
Park.
Avery that I didn't want to cut a trench if we didn't have to, right across the park to the river. Whether it be, I like your point, it doesn't have to be a swale, it can be a gravel-filled trench that will help move water away. I just keep thinking that extending the swale that goes along the road and that they kind of started, that carries water down over towards the bridge.
but that's only gonna trap what comes through, cause that starts right on the road's edge.
No, I
That's
know.
only gonna trap what comes through that culvert and anything that comes off that
Well, you
bank.
might need to go in a little bit with forming that, but the pools of water I saw weren't actually in the middle. They were close enough to where you could get that water directed towards
That's a long way to,
it is a long way.
you know,
That would have to be a Den's project. It'd have to be something that he would take on as something that seemed to fit his
yeah.
academic.
If we were gonna incorporate something like that, it would, you know, just brainstorming, but one of the first things it would be, is probably get a big bulldozer there and reshape the whole thing.
Reshape it.
But because it's never been shaped, it's been plowed and growed and,
Right.
and basically we rolled it
it.
and we started mowing it. You know, I mean, you remember when we first started, it was just rush hogged
Yeah.
for the first couple of years. So through our efforts, we've made it to what it looks like now, and then through David's efforts with the school, cleaned out all the trees. But it's never been fixed, and, you know, and just like you said, you know, but you need somebody you need a good sized machine to get in there
And has the eye for elevations.
that's
and
right,
can, and
and
can
just,
move,
and cut that, you know how it slopes like this towards that bank?
cut it the other way.
Push it around. Now we have, you know, now we have our plantings in the middle and some other things, and not that they couldn't be worked around, but you know, that,
Would you need fill as well?
what's that?
Any
To shape
fill?
it, change
It all
the,
depends, you know,
depends.
we could, you know, cause it's grown on top of junk anyway, so, you know, it's whatever the farm was there before. I mean, we didn't bring anything in, so, you know, would
I think likely not.
would
I
it
think
grow
that-
back to what we did?
because we're not gonna be able to touch the banks.
Right.
No, right. No, I think the idea would be, again, either to direct those low spots towards the river or to direct that water
catch the-
towards what would be a
ditch we're
swale
putting in.
that carries it around. And it wouldn't be the entire park that you have to, I don't think that you
No,
have to.
but you'd bulldoze quite a bit of it.
I mean, from where they've
It's-
got trees,
Yeah, you're probably.
Even if you don't see puddles, it's
it's wet.
wet.
Oh, it's very wet.
I mean,
And
Zach
that-
brings that up all the time.
Take
It's
a
like,
walk
he says,
on
it.
"Oh, why can we put some drainage in this park? Because when we mow it, you know, and,
Maybe
you
some
know,
slots.
and it's an absolute, you know, real issue. But it's not gonna be a cheap,
not a cheap
cheap
solve,
fix
yeah.
because of the size of it, you know? And again, maybe we can divide it up in half and say, well, we're gonna fix this quarter or third of the park this year and move ourselves around. But, you know, you gotta have the whole plan first before you
Yeah.
attack any of it.
okay.
Well, I'm kind of relying on Mr. Parks over here. to
Yeah, no, I'll
work
call
with-
Dave.
To work with Dave and to brainstorm with Avery and Ned if there's anything that they, one of them was gonna come tonight, I don't know why they didn't, but
I know Ed was out of town.
but Avery thought she'd be back by 7. And then, so Ned was gonna come if she couldn't. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They might have some ideas and we'll kick it
Sure.
around.
Yep.
Meet down there and talk about it. And that's all I had on that.
I'm sure they'll have to face major flooding periodically too.
That's right, it's got,
That's right.
I mean,
That's where it is.
but that's also another thing is that if you do it right, it can flood and it will go away if you don't have that perched part where the floods, many years of flooding has created this rim that
Right.
separates the river
That's
and then
right.
holds the water back. And if you could cut through some of that so that when it comes up, well, the rim helps you too. It protects you by an extra foot or two from the flood. But once it goes over, it stays there.
Right, then it stays there.
Although it was amazing how quick
Although,
it
yeah,
disappeared.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
it didn't, the last time
Irene,
it flooded
yeah.
was pretty
Came up and
dramatic,
went
and it
down.
didn't, I was surprised. it
Ed
wasn't
just
that
let
bad.
me know that the fire department has a fax machine.
Oh, okay.
Do we have that number?
We've got faxes everywhere.
Did you ask him or is he actually watching?
He's watching
Oh.
and he just texted me.
And what's the number?
Dedicated
Citizen, yes.
public official. 'Cause
Did he send
You have a
the
number?
No, but I'll
number?
ask him.
Oh,
You just want to let you know. isn't it?
oh, okay. It may just be their number.
anybody that can go 2 hours through one of these meetings is
Yeah.
really.
So let me know more on old.
I think that's it. Or you had one of,
I have old, yeah.
you have old, okay.
Kind of continuation. Now, Janice, you're gonna have to help me with this. This, I know I spoke to your husband. So this is an example of the signs that he's gonna get made up at Tomasi's that are gonna go on the signboard. There are a few others that are going on. So one of the things that I'm looking at, he was interested in, we're gonna put, the park rules will be on one. And as I was speaking to him, I just said, well, we'll kind of mirror it towards what we have up at, the Lions Park. And when I pulled out the old sign I had of all the rules, they basically are all around the skate park, and
Oh,
so they don't really apply to
they don't
everybody.
apply.
So some of the, like wearing a helmet down there isn't really that necessary.
What are we?
So the few that I did come up with that are kind of consistent with over there and consistent with most parks around, most of them are dawn to dusk. So those are the operating hours. No smoking, no alcoholic beverages. It's use at your own risk. I figured because it's by a pool of water, that's always good to have on there. And it's a trash in, trash out facility. We don't.
Collect.
We had asked to have one down there, and Norm pointed out that you're
You're asking for.
more
garbage.
asking for garbage to be thrown on the ground, which is kind of evident up at the park here. So by not putting one there, we're hoping that people are more respectful and will take any trash they bring in out with them. Are there any others that I'm missing? in terms of rules. I mean, basically, the dawn to dusk, your operating hours are the big one.
I mean, just restricting where the cars go.
Should put something there about pets. You know,
Whatever. Obviously, all of ours pet friendly. Please pick up after your pets.
yeah, and whatever our you know, if we have a leash law in the ordinances or something, it should be actually on there.
We do have a leash law.
Yeah, but now, is that applicable in a park though? Because obviously if you bring your dog to a park, you're looking to more exercise your dog throwing a ball.
I think it is applicable because you have to be under control of your pet, whatever that may
Well,
be.
let's put it this way, someone needs to have a leash with them.
You know.
The animal's leashed in the parking lot. Maybe they're allowed, I mean, maybe this is open
Well, I
discussion, that's
just
what people want.
reviewed that
Town
ordinance.
ordinance.
I just reviewed that one, the Bennington one.
Yeah.
And actually, if the North Bennington one is still in effect, I have an old one, but it talks about always being on a leash unless it's clearly within the owner's control.
Okay, so that would be.
Owner's control.
So that would be-
Control,
Okay.
yeah.
That's good.
You can clearly
So
demonstrate.
if you have a good dog that's well-behaved, he can run around. But
Yeah,
So we could just reference that the leashing of pet ordinance is
well,
in
except,
effect, and they can take that for what it's worth if they know the ordinance.
you could just say leash ordinance in effect. Which, you know, is just referencing broadly that, hey,
And the cleanup after your pet?
I know you probably ought to give it to Rob just to look over in case he wants to give you an opinion to add.
Yeah, what I'm doing now is just kind of getting, because we were talking about it earlier too, and that a lot of times you've got to be careful with what you put on the rules, because once you put a rule in effect, you are
responsible to enforce.
responsible for enforcing it, and for when things go wrong, you are now held liable for anything that, we found that up here. Is that it, do we think, for rules?
yeah,
Okay.
it's a
and-
working document,
Yeah.
signs can be
Closed
changed.
in the winter. Because we don't maintain.
You don't plow.
We don't plow, we don't do anything, so, you know.
Well, then that'll be kind of obvious. If there's no snow
People
on the
walk
ground,
in,
they
though.
could go in there and walk.
Yeah, it's not necessarily the park, is we,
Yeah, but you can, you know,
No winter.
That's just, no, you know, this park is not,
winter parking.
is not maintained during winter months. and,
Just no winter maintenance, or
You
so-
you know, I would just
so
put a
somebody
sign
starts
up in
following
winter
the ice
rather
right
than
maybe just put a sign in the
Sign up at-
winter, Janice is saying, just in the winter, put up something that says.
Nah, it should be-
parking lot closed or something.
You should have one sign.
I think the park should be open if you can drive a car in there, whether it's winter or not.
You can, but you put no winter maintenance.
That's right, I think something like that. But maybe that's kind of obvious. I mean,
That's where for Rob to decide.
yeah.
Okay, you know what, I'll throw it in there and see what he says. And the other list I was
Because I
putting together-
think, you know, I mean, people use it when there's no snow.
Right.
People use it when there's snow.
Right. I mean,
Well-
why can't
They
people
still drive
ski?
in there, you know, for various reasons.
But you're not gonna pull them out, is the point. And if somebody wants to go there and cross-country ski, snowshoe, do whatever, they should be able to do that.
Yeah, they should be allowed.
They just don't have the expectation that there's gonna be a salted, sanded lot there.
Right.
Okay. All right, if you come up with any others, feel free to let me know. And the other list I was putting together, that is gonna, so this is gonna be on the signboard, that the Larrigos are getting for us. And another part of that is gonna be the other opportunities in and around the village for recreation. I'll shoot off quickly what I've got, it's kind of a work in progress, but, in terms of park, we mentioned the Lions Park, and we'll put a listing of everything that's available there. Skateboarding, playground, pavilion, basketball, baseball fields, access to trails. McWaters Park, we'll list what's available there, fishing, picnicking, open space for recreational activities, Wellings Field, baseball field, open space for recreational activities, Lake Perrin, swimming, fishing, boating, access to hiking trails. Now, I put the village school because they've got the, I mean, that park is available to residents, I assume, right?
Yeah.
The playground.
Yeah, the playground rather. Green space, Is there still basketball there? There is, okay. And the playground. That's it for our larger spaces, correct?
Well,
Am I missing any?
you've got the trails, the
Mile
mile
and a
around
Yeah,
woods.
that's, yeah,
Okay.
this was
Oh,
just open spaces and park.
Oh.
Alright.
So now I've got, and then beyond that, we'll do hiking trails, so there's the mile around the woods and extended trails in and around Park McCullough. The Robert Frost Trail, we'll have it starting at Lake Perrin, ending at the museum. Trail systems on and around Bennington College, and the trail system along Perrin Creek.
Short Aldridge?
Short Aldrich is
Short
an
Aldrich
extension,
is the
kind
extension of
of
the mile around the woods, so we're not gonna list all the trails, because
Okay.
there's the blue trail and
this
there's
is
the
what I've got so
Okay.
far, and it's
Yeah.
gonna be on one of these, so it's,
yeah.
we're gonna find a
You
way
need
to
to
kind of
work-
whittle it down.
Yeah.
It's more of an, just a listing of things, so then you can go and find out more information if you want. They can find all the stuff on the
Are you
website.
still thinking of doing a map?
Yeah, it's still out there. The final copy is just stalled. But what I want to do is get a hold of Jim Henderson and see if he still has his digital copy of it. We could actually get a fairly good copy of what's available right now and possibly put that on the signboard as well. And that'll be the first and only that we have, with the idea of hopefully getting another copy here and maybe a few other places around the village.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
So I didn't mention that to your husband the other day when I spoke to him, but that was another idea I had afterwards, that maybe getting a copy of that map. And again, this is gonna be kind of attached to the board, but under plexi, so when things change, it can be, things can change. Did I miss any of the hiking or recreational opportunities? I'm sure there are more, but I couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, and that
Okay.
can change.
Again, if anything,
It's a
if I
living
missed any,
document.
let me know.
That's great.
All right, so I'll get together with him and kind of, it's gotta be kind of whittled down.
Oh, yeah.
He also talked to someone about doing, Marty, I guess, one on flora and fauna of the area too.
And
Again,
he's
those-
working on the history of the
And,
area.
yes,
as well.
George.
So there's gonna be,
History,
yeah,
yeah.
so there'll be a few different kind of areas on the signboard. And he was curious, I think he was asking too, if there are any other ideas anybody has to be added to the signboard for consideration. Is there something we're missing? If anybody had any ideas on what they'd like to see on that signboard, they're certainly welcome to contact, I guess, either George
George,
or
it should
myself,
be, yeah.
or myself,
you,
and I can
yeah.
get in touch with them.
Okay. That's great.
That's it. That's it.
Is there anything else? We do have some executive legal to discuss.
I don't think I have anything else.
I just wanted to mention, because we got an email from Laurie about it, that this Spring Select Board Institute, which is Saturday, has a lot of interesting workshops on it. I don't know that I can go
No.
myself, but
Where's,
it's in Rutland, that's
the
the other
Rutland
thing, yeah. Yeah.
I'm in Rutland almost every day now. That's the fire department's fax.
Oh, thank you.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
All's in favor?
Aye.
And I think we need to identify the reason,
For legal?
legal, okay, good.